The Galactic Dominion had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. They had conquered more than 200 worlds. They had enslaved billions of beings from hundreds of different species. Their method was always the same. They would find a weak planet, send a message demanding surrender, and then take everything they wanted. No one had ever stopped them. No one had ever even come close. Commander Veltris stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Eternal Flame. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed a soft yellow color. He had served the Dominion for 300 years. He had personally overseen the conquest of 11 worlds. To him, this was just another routine mission. His second officer approached him with a datapad. "Commander, we have identified the next target. A small planet on the edge of the galaxy. The natives call it Earth." Veltris took the datapad and looked at the information. The planet was mostly water. The dominant species called themselves humans. They had only recently discovered how to split atoms and send signals in space. Their fastest ships could barely leave their own solar system. By Dominion standards, they were primitive. They were weak. They were perfect. "What is their population?" Veltris asked. "Approximately 8 billion, Commander." Veltris made a satisfied sound. 8 billion workers for the labor colonies. 8 billion slaves to serve the Dominion's endless expansion. This would be a good harvest. "Send the standard message," he ordered. "Give them one of their planetary rotations to respond. If they do not surrender, we will begin the cleansing." The officer nodded and walked away to carry out the order. Veltris looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a small blue planet was about to learn its place in the universe. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The message arrived on Earth at exactly 3:47 in the morning, Eastern Time. It did not come through normal channels. It appeared on every screen on the planet at the same moment. Every television, every computer, every phone, every digital billboard. Even old radios crackled with the sound of an alien voice. The translation was perfect. The words were cold and final. "Species designated human. Your world has been selected for integration into the Galactic Dominion. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender all governmental authority. All military forces must stand down. All leaders must present themselves for processing. Resistance will result in complete planetary sterilization. Every living thing on your world will be destroyed. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is your only warning." Then the screens went dark. For a moment, the whole world was silent. Then the panic began. In Washington, D.C., President Daniel Brooks was woken from his sleep by Secret Service agents. Within 30 minutes, he was in a bunker deep underground, surrounded by generals and advisors. Everyone was talking at once. Everyone was afraid. "We need to launch everything we have," one general shouted. "Hit them before they hit us." "With what?" Another officer replied. "We don't even know where they are. Our missiles can't reach orbit. Then we surrender." "We have no choice. Surrender? You want to hand over 8 billion people to alien slavers?" The argument went on and on. No one had any real answers. No one knew what to do. Across the world, it was the same story. In Moscow and Beijing, in London and Tokyo, leaders gathered and argued and panicked. Religious groups declared the end of the world. Stock markets crashed. Millions of people flooded into the streets, some praying, some rioting, some simply standing and staring at the sky. But in the small office at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, a young man named Kevin Park was not panicking. He was working. Kevin was 29 years old. He had spent his entire adult life studying the possibility of alien communication. He had written papers about how alien languages might work. He had designed systems to decode messages from the stars. Most people had thought he was wasting his time. Tonight, he was the most important person on the planet. His colleague, Dr. Grace Kim, found him at 4 in the morning. She had driven through streets filled with chaos to reach the laboratory. When she walked into Kevin's office, she found him surrounded by empty coffee cups and scattered papers. His eyes were red from staring at screens, but there was something strange in his expression. He did not look afraid. He looked excited. "Kevin, what are you doing?" "We need to evacuate." Kevin did not look up from his computer. "They made a mistake, Grace." "What are you talking about?" "The aliens. They made a mistake." He finally turned to look at her. "They wanted to make sure we understood their message. So they included their communication protocols in the transmission. It's like they sent us a letter with their home address written on the envelope." Grace moved closer. "What does that mean?" "It means they gave us access to their network. I've been inside their systems for the past 2 hours." Kevin's hands were shaking, but not from fear. "Grace, I can see everything. Their military records, their historical archives, their secret files. That's impossible. Their technology must be thousands of years ahead of ours. Their technology is advanced, but their security is not. They've never needed it. No one has ever fought back. No one has ever tried to hack them. They don't even have the concept of cybersecurity." Kevin laughed, a strange sound in the middle of so much fear. "They conquered the galaxy, but they never invented firewalls." Grace sat down heavily in a chair. "What did you find?" Kevin's expression became serious. "They've been doing this for 10,000 years. Conquering planets, taking slaves. But they're not perfect. They've failed before." "Failed? How?" "There's a category in their database called anomalous responses. 17 species that did something unexpected. 17 times the Dominion sent a fleet, and that fleet never came back." Kevin pulled up a file on his screen. "The records are sealed at the highest level, classified beyond anything else in their system. They're hiding their failures, Grace. They're hiding the fact that they can be beaten." Grace stared at the screen. "Can you open those files?" Kevin smiled. "I already did. And Grace, the things these species did. The Dominion is terrified of them. They've spent thousands of years pretending these defeats never happened because if the galaxy found out, their whole system of fear would collapse." He leaned back in his chair and looked at his friend. "We have 6 hours before their deadline, and I think I know how to use this." Grace looked at him for a long moment. "Kevin, what are you planning?" Kevin turned back to his computer and started typing. "I'm planning to send a message of our own. One that the whole galaxy is going to hear." Outside the laboratory, the world was falling apart. People screamed and prayed and waited for the end. But inside that small office, one man was writing a response that would change everything. The aliens wanted Earth to surrender. Kevin Park was about to show them why that was a very bad idea. The clock was ticking. Earth had less than 20 hours before the alien deadline expired. Around the world, governments were still arguing about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to surrender. Most simply did not know. In the underground bunker in Washington, D.C., President Daniel Brooks listened to his advisors fight with each other. His head was pounding. His heart was heavy. He was the leader of the most powerful nation on Earth, and he had never felt more helpless. "Sir," one of his aides interrupted, "we're receiving a call from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. A scientist named Kevin Park says he has information about the alien transmission." Brooks looked up. At this point, he would listen to anyone. "Put him through." Kevin's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. Behind him, Grace Kim was working on multiple computers. "Mr. President," Kevin said, "I know this sounds crazy, but I need you to listen to me. I found a way into the alien network. I have access to their entire database. The room went silent. Brooks leaned forward. Explain. Kevin talked fast. He told them about the communication protocols the aliens had accidentally shared. He told them about the sealed files. He told them about the 17 species that had defeated the Dominion. Sir, these aliens have been running on fear for 10,000 years. They win because everyone believes they cannot be beaten. But they can be beaten. They have been beaten. And they've been hiding it this whole time. One of the generals laughed bitterly. So what? Even if that's true, we can't fight them. We don't have spaceships. We don't have laser weapons. We have nothing. We don't need weapons, Kevin said. We need information. And I have all of it. Brooks studied the young man on the screen. There was something in his eyes, a fire that the president recognized. It was the same fire he had seen in soldiers who refused to give up, in leaders who found a way when there was no way. What exactly are you proposing? Brooks asked. Kevin took a deep breath. I want to send a message. Not just to the aliens, but to their entire network. Every ship, every station, every conquered planet. I want to release everything. All their secrets. All their failures. All the truth they've been hiding. And what will that accomplish? It will show the galaxy that the Dominion can be defeated. It will start rebellions on their conquered worlds. It will break their reputation. Kevin paused. And it will scare them away from Earth. The room erupted in arguments. Some said it was insane. Some said it might work. Some said they had no other choice. Brooks held up his hand for silence. He looked at the young scientist on the screen. You really think you can do this? Yes, sir. But I need authorization. I need resources. And I need time. Brooks made his decision in less than a second. They were facing the end of their species. What did they have to lose? You have everything you need, the president said. Do it. Kevin nodded, and the screen went dark. In the laboratory, Kevin and Grace worked without rest. Other scientists joined them, men and women who had been called in from across the country. Military cyber experts arrived to help. The small office became a command center. Kevin coordinated everything. He assigned tasks, checked progress, and continued digging through the alien database. Every hour, he found something new, something worse, something that could be used. Grace worked beside him, translating alien language files and organizing the information. At one point, she stopped and looked at Kevin with a strange expression. Kevin, do you really think this will work? Kevin did not stop typing. I don't know, but it's the only chance we have. We're poking a giant alien empire with a stick. If this makes them angry, they're already planning to enslave or kill all of us, Kevin said quietly. I don't see how we can make things worse. Grace was silent for a moment. Then she went back to work. The hours passed. The deadline grew closer. Around the world, people watched the sky and waited for the end. In the laboratory, Kevin finally stopped typing. He looked at the screen in front of him and read the message he had written. It was addressed to the entire galaxy. It contained links to thousands of classified files. It contained the truth about 17 species that had beaten the unbeatable Dominion. But most importantly, it contained a promise. A promise that Earth would not surrender. A promise that humanity would fight. A promise that if the Dominion came for them, they would regret it. Grace read the message over his shoulder. Kevin, this is going to change everything. That's the idea. Are you sure you want to do this? Once we send this, there's no going back. Kevin thought about his family. His parents in Chicago. His sister in New York. His friends, his colleagues, everyone he had ever known. All of them were counting on him, even though they did not know it. He thought about humanity. All the wars they had fought. All the struggles they had survived. The plagues and famines and disasters. The times when extinction seemed certain. But somehow, they had found a way to continue. Humans were survivors. They always had been. Maybe that was their greatest strength. "Send it," Kevin said. Grace hesitated for only a second. Then she pressed the button. The message went out. It traveled through the alien network at speeds faster than light. It reached every ship in the Dominion fleet. It reached every station in their vast empire. It reached every planet they had ever conquered. Within minutes, the galaxy knew the truth. The Dominion was not invincible. They had been defeated before, and a small planet called Earth was challenging them to try again. On the bridge of the Eternal Flame, Commander Veltris received the transmission. He watched the human's face appear on his screen. He listened to the words. He saw the classified files being downloaded across his entire network. For the first time in 300 years, his hands began to shake. "Commander," his second officer said, his voice trembling, "what do we do?" Veltris did not answer. He was staring at the screen, at the young human who had just torn apart 10,000 years of carefully maintained lies. The deadline was in 6 hours. But suddenly, Veltris was not so sure that Earth was a good target after all. On the planet below, Kevin Park leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. The message was sent. The truth was out. Whatever happened next was out of his hands. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, he felt hope. The galaxy had heard humanity's voice. Now they would see what humans could do. The message from Earth spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. It moved faster than any ship could travel. It reached places that had not heard free speech in centuries. It woke up billions of beings who had forgotten what hope felt like. On the Dominion capital world, a planet called Prime, the High Council met in emergency session. 12 ancient beings sat around a curved table, their faces twisted with anger and fear. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never faced anything like this. How did this happen? The first speaker demanded. How did a primitive species access our most secret files? No one had an answer. The technology of the Dominion was advanced beyond imagination. Their ships could travel between stars in days. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their computers could process information faster than any human could dream. That they had never invented cybersecurity. They had never needed it. For 10,000 years, no one had dared to challenge them. No one had tried to steal their secrets. The very idea was unthinkable. Until now. "We must destroy them immediately," one council member said. "Send the entire fleet. Burn their planet to ash. Make an example that the galaxy will never forget. If we do that, we confirm everything in those files," another member argued. "We prove that we are afraid. We show weakness. We are showing weakness already. Every conquered species is reading those files right now. They are learning that we can be defeated." The first speaker raised his hand for silence. "What is done is done. The files are out. We cannot take them back. The question is what we do now." He turned to a screen that showed a map of the galaxy. Red lights were already blinking on several worlds. Disturbances, protests, the beginning of rebellion. "We pull back from Earth," the first speaker said finally. "We deal with the immediate threats to our empire. Once order is restored, we can decide what to do about the humans. Pull back?" A council member shouted. "Run away from primitives? We are not running. We are prioritizing. The humans are one planet. We have 200 worlds that might rise up against us if we do not act quickly." The first speaker's voice was cold. "Earth will wait. It is not going anywhere." On the Eternal Flame, Commander Veltris received his new orders. The Earth mission was suspended. All ships were to return to the core systems to help suppress possible rebellions. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt something he had not experienced in centuries: shame. He had been beaten by creatures who still used chemical rockets. His reputation was ruined. His career was over. Even if he survived the coming chaos, he would always be remembered as the commander who lost to humans. His intelligence officer, Lieutenant Yoon Seo, approached him carefully. She was young for her species, barely 100 years old. But she was smart. She had been studying the human transmission since it arrived. "Commander, I have completed my analysis of the human strategy." Veltries waved his hand tiredly. "What does it matter now?" "It matters because we need to understand what we are dealing with, sir. The humans did not attack us with weapons. They attacked us with information. And they did it better than any species in our history." Veltries looked at her. "Explain." Yoon Seo pulled up her data. "When we sent our message to Earth, we included our communication protocols. This was standard procedure. We always do this to ensure the primitives can understand us." "Yes, so?" "So we gave them the keys to our network. We assumed they would not know how to use them. We were wrong." She showed him a timeline. Within 2 hours of receiving our message, the humans had penetrated our outer security. Within 4 hours, they had accessed classified archives. Within 6 hours, they had prepared and broadcast their response. That is impossible. Our systems are incredibly complex. Our systems are complex, Commander, but they are not protected. We have never needed protection. No one has ever attacked us this way. Yoon Seo paused. "But the humans have been attacking each other this way for decades." She showed him images from human history. Wars fought with information. Banks robbed without weapons. Governments brought down by leaked secrets. An entire world where stealing data was as common as stealing bread. They call it cyber warfare, Commander. They have been practicing it since before they left their own planet. They have millions of experts. They have developed techniques we have never imagined. Yoon Seo's voice was heavy with respect. "We thought we were attacking primitives. We attacked the most experienced information warriors in the galaxy." Veltries stared at the data. "So we never had a chance?" "Not the way we approached them, sir. If we had simply invaded with ships and soldiers, we might have won. But we tried to intimidate them first. We opened communication. And the moment we did that, we were fighting on their ground, not ours." The commander was silent for a long time. Outside the window, stars drifted past as the ship turned toward home. Earth grew smaller in the distance, a tiny blue dot that had somehow changed everything. "What do you recommend, Lieutenant?" Yoon Seo hesitated. "Honestly, Commander, I recommend we leave them alone, forever. The Council will not accept that. Then the Council should prepare for a long and costly war. Because these humans..." She shook her head. "They are not like any species we have ever encountered. They do not fight fairly. They do not follow rules. They attack from directions we cannot anticipate." She looked at her commander with something like fear in her eyes. "And, sir, they enjoy it. They think war is a game. They have been playing it against each other for thousands of years. We just invited them to play against a bigger opponent." Veltries thought about the young human who had appeared on his screen. The tired eyes, the calm voice, the complete lack of fear. For the first time, he understood. The humans were not brave because they thought they could win. They were brave because they did not care if they lost. They would fight regardless. They would cause damage regardless. They would make their enemy bleed, even if it cost them everything. That kind of enemy was not just dangerous. That kind of enemy was terrifying. "Send a message to the High Council," Veltries said quietly. "Tell them I agree with the decision to withdraw. And add a personal recommendation from me. What recommendation, sir? Veltries looked at the distant blue dot one last time. Tell them to seal the Earth system. Mark it as forbidden. Warn every ship, every fleet, every commander in the Dominion. He turned away from the window. Tell them Earth is not worth the cost. Not with real fire, but with something far more dangerous. Ideas, hope, rebellion. The truth that Kevin Park had released spread through the conquered worlds like a disease that could not be stopped. On Veritas 3, a mining colony where billions of workers had labored in chains for centuries, the foreman woke up to empty tunnels. The workers had seen the files. They knew the Dominion could be beaten. For the first time in living memory, they said no. On the agricultural world of Greenhaven, farmers stopped shipping food to the Dominion fleet. Let them starve, they said. Like they let us starve when our harvests failed. On the factory planet of Ironheart, workers sabotaged the machines that built warships. Production dropped by 90% in a single week. The Dominion needed those ships now more than ever. The High Council watched their empire crumble with disbelief. They sent soldiers to restore order, but soldiers needed food. They sent ships to enforce their will, but ships needed fuel. They threatened and punished and killed, but fear no longer worked as well as it used to. The conquered species had seen the secret files. They knew about the 17 times the Dominion had been defeated. They knew that resistance was not futile after all. That knowledge changed everything. On Earth, Kevin Park watched the chaos unfold with a mixture of pride and worry. His plan had worked better than he had ever imagined. The alien fleet had withdrawn. The immediate threat was over. Humanity had survived, but the job was not finished. Kevin stood in a conference room at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Leaders from every nation on Earth sat around the table. For the first time in human history, there was no arguing about borders or resources or old grudges. They faced a common enemy. They needed a common plan. The Dominion has pulled back, Kevin explained, pointing at a map of the galaxy that their new access to alien systems had provided. They're dealing with rebellions on dozens of worlds. They don't have the resources to come after us right now. But they will come eventually, President Brooks said. Once they restore order. Maybe, maybe not. Kevin pulled up a new display. Right now, we have an opportunity. The rebel species are fighting, but they're fighting alone. They don't have communication with each other. They don't have coordination. They don't have strategy. And you think we can provide that? The Russian president asked skeptically. I think we already are. Kevin showed them a log of communications from the past 3 days. We still have access to the Dominion network. We've been sharing information with rebel groups across the galaxy. Fleet movements, supply routes, weakness points. You've been conducting an interstellar intelligence operation without authorization. The Chinese premier demanded. With all respect, sir, I didn't have time to ask permission. People were dying. I helped them. I'll accept whatever consequences you think are appropriate. Kevin's voice was steady. But I won't apologize for saving lives. The room was silent for a moment. Then the Brazilian president started laughing. This young man single-handedly started a galactic revolution, and he's worried about paperwork. She shook her head with admiration. I think we can skip the consequences. Grace Kim stood up from her seat in the corner. She had been working with Kevin since the beginning and had come to the meeting as his advisor. If I may, the real question isn't what Kevin did. It's what we do next. She walked to the display and pulled up more data. The Dominion is wounded, but they're not dead. They still have massive resources. They still have technology we can't match. If they recover, if they crush these rebellions, they will come for us. And next time, they won't make the mistake of giving us time to prepare. So what do you suggest? The British Prime Minister asked. We helped the rebels win. Grace's voice was firm. We provide intelligence, strategy, and support. We build alliances with the species fighting for their freedom. We create a network of allies across the galaxy who owe their liberation to Earth. You want us to become the center of an interstellar resistance movement, the Indian Prime Minister said slowly. I want us to make sure we're never alone again, Grace replied. The Dominion's power was built on isolation. They kept conquered species separate, unable to help each other. We can break that system. We can connect them. We can teach them what we know about fighting, about resistance, about never giving up. Kevin nodded. Humanity spent its entire history fighting itself. We developed strategies, tactics, psychological warfare, information warfare. We learned every dirty trick in the book. Now we can use all of that to help others. President Brooks leaned forward. And in return? In return, we won't be a single primitive planet on the edge of the galaxy. We'll be part of something bigger. We'll have allies who will fight for us like we fought for them. The leaders looked at each other. It was a massive decision. It would change humanity's place in the universe forever. But they all knew that there was really only one choice. The vote was unanimous. Over the following months, Earth became the heart of a galactic revolution. Kevin and Grace led a team of thousands, coordinating resistance movements across 100 worlds. They shared technology and strategy. They translated human military texts into alien languages. They taught species who had never fought back how to organize, how to resist, how to win. The Dominion tried to stop the flow of information, but they could not. Human hackers were inside their systems, and nothing could get them out. Every secret order was intercepted. Every fleet movement was shared with the rebels. Every lie was exposed. Slowly, inevitably, the empire began to collapse. Worlds that had been enslaved for millennia declared independence. Fleets that had enforced Dominion rule switched sides or simply went home. The fear that had held everything together was gone, replaced by something the Dominion had never understood. Hope on a small monitor in the UN Coordination Center. Kevin watched as another world declared freedom. People were dancing in the streets, celebrating under skies they had never thought they would own. Grace came to stand beside him. "We did this," she said quietly. "Can you believe it?" Kevin shook his head. "Sometimes I still think I'm going to wake up and find out it was all a dream. If it is, it's a good dream. The best." Kevin smiled, but there was tiredness in his eyes. They had been working non-stop for months. The galaxy was changing, and they were at the center of it. What happens now? Grace asked. Kevin looked at the map of the galaxy, at all the lights representing free worlds, at all the lights still under Dominion control. Now we finish what we started. We help every species that wants to be free. We build alliances that will last for generations. We make sure the Dominion can never threaten anyone again. He turned to look at his friend. And then? I don't know. Maybe we explore. Maybe we build. Maybe we just enjoy not being alone in the universe anymore. Grace smiled. That sounds like a good plan. Outside the window, the sun was rising over New York City. On the streets below, people walked to work, lived their lives, did ordinary things. Most of them had no idea how close they had come to losing everything. Most of them did not know that two young scientists had saved them all, but that was okay. Kevin and Grace did not need credit. They just needed to know that humanity would survive. And now, for the first time, that survival seemed certain. 1 year had passed since the day the aliens sent their message to Earth. 1 year since Kevin Park sent his reply. 1 year since the galaxy began to change. The Galactic Dominion still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. More than half of its conquered worlds were now free. The rest were in various stages of rebellion or negotiation. The High Council had been forced to do something they had never done in 10,000 years. They had asked for peace. The treaty signing took place on a neutral station in deep space. Representatives from Earth, from the Dominion, and from dozens of newly freed worlds gathered in a chamber that had been built specifically for this moment. Kevin Park stood near the back of the room, watching quietly. He had become famous across the galaxy, known as the human who broke the Dominion's power with nothing but a computer and a clever idea. He hated the attention. He just wanted to go back to his laboratory and work. But Grace had convinced him to attend. "You started this," she said. "You should see how it ends." The first speaker of the Dominion approached the signing table. He was ancient, his gray skin wrinkled and spotted with age. His 4 eyes held a mixture of resignation and respect. "We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "We believed we were bringing order to chaos. We believed we were helping primitive species reach their potential. We believed we were right." He paused and looked directly at Kevin. "We were wrong." The chamber was silent. No one had expected the first speaker to admit fault. For a species built on pride and domination, this was unthinkable. "The humans showed us our mistakes," the first speaker continued. "Not with weapons, but with truth. They exposed our failures. They revealed our lies. They proved that our power was built on fear, and that fear could be broken." He picked up the document that would end the Dominion's reign of conquest forever. "This treaty does not bring us victory. It brings us something better. A chance to become what we should have been from the beginning. Partners, not masters. Allies, not conquerors." The first speaker signed the treaty. One by one, representatives from other species did the same. When it was done, the chamber erupted in cheers and celebration. Kevin slipped out during the noise. He found a quiet observation deck where he could look out at the stars alone. A few minutes later, Grace joined him. "You're missing the party," she said. "You know I hate parties." Grace smiled and stood beside him. "Fair enough." They watched the stars together in comfortable silence. So much had changed since that night in the laboratory when they had worked through the darkness, racing against a deadline that seemed impossible. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't sent that message?" Grace asked. Kevin thought about it. "Sometimes. But then I think about all the worlds that are free now, all the people who aren't slaves anymore, and I stop wondering." "You saved the galaxy, Kevin. You should be proud." Kevin shook his head. "I didn't save anything. I just showed people the truth. They saved themselves." It was a modest answer, but Grace knew him well enough to understand. Kevin had never wanted to be a hero. He had just wanted to help. The fact that helping had changed the course of galactic history was, to him, just a lucky accident. "So what now?" Grace asked. "The war is over. The treaty is signed. What does Kevin Park do with the rest of his life?" Kevin smiled for the first time that day. "I've been thinking about that. There are a lot of species out there that we've never met. A lot of planets we've never seen. A lot of mysteries we've never solved. You want to explore? I want to learn. I want to meet new species and understand how they think. I want to discover things that no human has ever known." He turned to look at Grace. "I want to keep doing what I've always done, just on a bigger scale." Grace laughed. "That sounds like you. There's just one problem." "What's that?" Kevin's smile became shy. "I'd need a partner. Someone smart enough to keep up with me. Someone brave enough to travel to the unknown. Someone I trust completely." Grace felt her heart speed up. "Kevin Park, are you asking me to explore the galaxy with you?" "I guess I am." She pretended to think about it. "Well, I don't have any other plans. And someone needs to make sure you eat and sleep." "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes." They stood together, looking out at the infinite stars, at a galaxy that was finally at peace. Behind them, the celebration continued. The noise of 100 species cheering their freedom echoed through the station. But for Kevin and Grace, the real celebration was quieter. It was the knowledge that they had made a difference. It was the promise of adventures to come. It was the simple fact of being together at the end of one journey and the beginning of another. Months later, a small Earthship left the solar system on its first official exploration mission. It carried a crew of scientists, diplomats, and dreamers from a dozen different worlds. At its head were two young humans who had once worked in a small laboratory in California. The ship was called the New Dawn. Its mission was simple: go out into the galaxy, make friends, learn everything possible, and report back. It was humanity's first step as a true member of the galactic community. Kevin stood on the bridge as the ship passed Mars, then Jupiter, then the distant outer planets. Soon they would reach interstellar space. Soon they would see things no human had ever seen. Grace came to stand beside him, as she always did. "Ready?" she asked. Kevin looked at the stars ahead. He thought about his parents back in Chicago, proud of their son, but still not quite understanding what he had done. He thought about President Brooks, who had trusted him when no one else would. He thought about all the people of Earth, going about their lives, never knowing how close they had come to losing everything. He thought about the Dominion commander who had wanted to enslave them. He thought about the first speaker who had finally learned to respect them. He thought about all the species across the galaxy who now looked to Earth. As a symbol of hope and freedom, humanity had been marked as the next target. Instead, they had become something no one expected. Not conquerors, not victims, just people who refused to give up. "Ready," Kevin said. The New Dawn accelerated toward the stars. Behind it, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another dot of light in the darkness. But that dot of light meant something now. It meant that even the smallest voice could change the galaxy. It meant that truth was more powerful than weapons. It meant that hope could break any chain. Kevin Park had proven all of that with a single message. Now he would spend the rest of his life proving what else humanity could do. The galaxy was watching. And for the first time, Earth was ready to show them everything.